There we go.
Dropping the kids off at the pool, maybe?
Oh, I need to order the other part of that Pro Clip.
Not stealing my pick, are you?
No. But your pick reminded me.
Oh, you don't have the phone half?
No, I have the small phone half
Yeah.
from yours and my GTI, and then there
You don't have the phone half from me.
or the
You have the car half.
Yeah, you're like super blue.
I have the
Jeremy.
small phone half for on Ryan's
From
one
the
that's
vault.
in the vault.
Yeah.
All right, we got Josh incoming, so prepare for the noise.
So I need like 2 of the.
Yeah, they're pricey.
Yeah, that's
That's the only issue.
Hello, Mr. Josh.
I would never go back now. Like they're the perfect solution,
Yeah.
but they're pricey.
What is the difference between the 7 Plus and the 6S Plus holder?
I don't know.
There shouldn't be any.
Well, the button placement is a bit different.
It holds
So-
it on the bottom.
Keep talking, Josh.
Oh, they had some with 3.5mm jacks built into them.
Oh.
Sweet as that.
Don't know.
Sean, I'm getting
Yeah, I mean, they're
Yeah, we
gonna be
lost
the
them
same
both.
Price.
No, I'm just like, there's literally not a pixel different on those.
Yeah.
I gotta go down here for differences if I wanted like that. Oh, well, that just does the.
If you scroll down, I think they had ones that did audio.
No.
Maybe.
I mean, I kind of don't mind the lightning being there, but if it's more expensive.
This is weird.
I don't even have a place to plug in. Well, I do have a place to plug in Lightning on my car. I don't have a cable for it.
Yeah.
It's got the MFI connector.
Well, I got noise from Josh and Jeremy.
That's what happens until both of them start talking.
No.
Oh, I hear Jeremy. I don't hear
No
Josh.
Josh.
No Josh. Nope.
to restart because I see.
Oh, I hear him.
Yeah, he's real low.
Josh, why don't you hang up, do a test call, and see if that works on your end?
Nah, just lick your microphone. Well, it just updated, so of course nothing works.
Yeah, it's really broken.
Bye.
Bye.
Boy. Seriously, what?
Now Jeremy's probably going to be super loud once Josh hangs up.
Jeremy, talk.
Okay.
No, that wasn't
No.
bad.
Yeah, because I turned him down.
Oh,
Damn it, you beat me.
I know it takes 2 of
40
those
bucks
times to
for
learn
that
the
piece of
lesson.
plastic.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. You could 3D print the phone part.
That's what I was saying. Like, it's just a plate that's already there with screws.
Yeah.
With
I mean,
screw holes.
Like,
Could make a thing out of wood.
yeah, you could. It also has. Well, I mean,
I know it does the little expand contract thing a little bit. But,
Well, mine doesn't.
oh, you have this one doesn't.
I have the fixed one, but it has a ball joint, so it can so you can tilt it. So
Yeah.
like if the sun's reflecting off it, you can tilt it up, and you can rotate into landscape mode if you wanted to do that for any
Sure.
reason.
$40 for one half of a phone holder. And that's the cheap
How much
one.
for the other half?
It's like
Uh,
another 40 or it depends on the car, actually, I think.
I think they're all like 35 or 40 for the cars.
It's fucking ridiculous.
You know what's even more ridiculous? ProClip USA just OEM's a German company. They're not OEM. They just resell a German company that makes these.
So make sure to remove it from your car if you go for emissions testing.
No, you got to keep it in so you pass the emissions testing.
I think Jeremy's auto gain's messed up too.
He's ducking in and out.
Oh, am I? I'll get Josh on before you try and balance me because that will knock it off again.
Yeah, I don't
Right. Yeah, but he's still away.
Yeah, I think it's going to reboot.
People still have bloody car alarms. They're good for one thing only.
Ken, you have a fan on the IRCs.
Yeah, I need a short cable for the
Yeah.
T3, but none of the short cables I bought so far did
3.1.
no, they didn't. Well, they didn't do actual like 480 megabit or higher.
480 megabits USB 2.
That is
Just be 1.8.
megabytes. It's 5 gigabit.
Gotcha.
Just leave them there. You can use MS Paint to draw a little smile underneath them. It'd look perfect.
Smiley smile. Call and hold.
Yeah, how dare he?
The heck?
I think he was doing the dial back on his other line.
And he hung up.
Rude.
How rude.
Oh, it's beats leaving us on hold for an hour and a half. At least he wasn't playing music.
That's what he needs. Elevator music. Do 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 do. Hold music. So strong, man.
No, you do not have any sound.
It's the hold music.
Do you know sign language?
Nope.
Let's talk to Josh.
Is the microphone plugged in?
Check your audio device in on that Skype. He can't see it. You
I
gotta
think
go.
he can hear us. He just can't speak
He
to
can
us.
hear us.
The most
Did you check
frustrating
that,
position
Alex?
to be in.
Huh?
Check his audio device on that Skype.
I don't know how that would have changed.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
but
well, guess what?
Oh, where's that at? It's
we don't know how
under-
anything. It's there's-
Test.
Oh,
There
it
we
is.
go.
So
The heck was it?
We're talking. about your stream.
Whoa.
The sensitivity was set way down.
Well, it's not way down anymore.
Not anymore. Do you need me to set it down farther here?
Well, I think Alex.
Or do you
is-
Yeah,
take
we're,
it?
we're
I
good.
think
We're
we
good.
need compressors
you,
on our headphones.
you might almost be clipping. Actually,
Audio settings.
We just lost you, Josh.
He's still there.
There.
no, he's there.
We got you now.
Now Alex got to turn you back up over here.
Don't touch your gain, Josh. We'll
No,
touch
I'd
the
like
gain.
to touch my game.
Well,
No.
it sounded
Stay
like he
with it.
was. It sounded like he was almost clipping on his side.
yeah, I was either nothing or something. You need me to turn it down a little?
Now he's ducking.
Now you're ducking.
Duck, 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 duck.
What do
Yeah.
you want me to?
Is there an auto gain enabled somewhere on your side?
No,
Josh?
no, it's
Well, shouldn't be.
Yes, there is, because you can't actually disable it in Skype.
Well,
Yeah, it's just Skype being Skype.
They've acknowledged that the auto gain button does nothing.
it does
I have
nothing.
not once sounded like Beyonce. It's not fair.
hey, down about.
Actually, Jeremy's ducking out now. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, what is going on here?
It's
Jeremy,
the,
say something.
Skype update.
I've been talking, and I have not touched my knobs one bit. I have been abstaining. My hands are on the desk. But is it still going crazy?
No, you sound good now.
Okay.
Might have just been Skype trying to figure out what we did.
Hey, Alex, what's your Twitter account?
All right, now Josh is ducking.
Okay, is duck good or bad? What's
It's like when your voice
I'm
just
cutting
kind
in
of
and
like,
out.
your voice just cuts out. Like not the way your voice used to cut out with your internet, but actually like somebody's playing with the volume knob.
Is his gate up too high?
I just took his gate out.
Hmm.
Right
All
now,
right,
Josh.
The goose.
Okay, you would like me to talk for how much longer?
Yeah, he's
Yeah, it's way down on his side.
Oh,
Okay,
noise.
How about now? Is it a little bit better now?
That's better.
Do you need me up high?
yeah. Turn your thingy up a little bit
Okay, there's another couple of decibels.
because we're getting a lot of static from your channel.
Static.
Well, actually, the static's because he turned the gate off. You could probably turn the
Okay,
gate back
how
on.
about this now?
Ooh, that's perfect.
Okay.
Gate back in. So
Yep.
good.
8.
No, he's louder.
Well, I brought it close to my mouth, and I yelled,
Technically not touching your gate.
"Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo."
Probably pot him down a tiny bit.
Yeah.
It's all gonna break.
It's hanging on by a thread. All of it's hanging on by a thread.
Always.
Until it decides to, go crazy yet again.
But we're never gonna survive.
Do you have a
Unless-
sword dangling above your head right now?
Get a little crazy.
Does Alex have a Twitter account?
Alex?
I do, but I don't know if I've used it in like 3 years.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Well, Ben was kind of curious. Ben Stone from Linux Gamecast. He's
Oh.
he's a listener, and he
Long time, first time.
well, no, not first time, but he likes to talk shop. You know what I'm saying?
just let it go. Just let it go.
He's a good guy.
But now it sounds like I don't know who Ven is. Josh just doesn't get my witty repartee.
No.
Do we have an ad?
Not that we know of.
Yeah, we have not heard back from Ryan on the ad.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just slip it in.
Now, I don't have a Twitter account, but I do have a Google Plus account.
Oh
That's-
well. Actually, I think Ben's
Good for
got a
you.
Google Plus. He's
Ben's
one of
got
the
a
few
Google
that
Plus.
actually uses it.
I didn't say I used it. I said I have
He
one.
actually uses his. Then again, so does Ryan.
Still?
And I know that because I still pop onto it every once in a while.
I mean, he cross posts all
Yeah.
the PC Purse stuff to Google Plus just to see if there's anyone alive.
Hello,
All 12 of
hello. Is there anybody listening on this thing?
Missed
I did
opportunity.
disable my Wave account, though, sadly.
Google Wave was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And yet behind its time at the same time.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
It's basically just Slack, right?
All right, I think we're all here, ready to do this thing.
Schrodinger's beta Google site.
Yes.
Simultaneously beta and extinct at the same time.
You know, I really wish that I could make my little Skype window just a little bit bigger. You know, when you got something in front
There's
of
a
Skype
bill
and
for that.
You
what?
Oh, the other little one. Okay. I know
The
what you're saying.
little Skype.
The little mini Skype.
Mini Skype.
Yeah.
Here, mini Skype.
Well, they
I'll
made
tell
it
you,
small.
this mini fridge right next to my desk. What do
Why is your volume still going up?
you mean?
I don't know.
Is it still going up now?
Just leave it.
Yeah,
No.
I think it's some kind of feedback on his monitor.
Damn it.
Get a new monitor, Josh.
Josh
So-
has always been louder than all
So
of
the way
us.
the way to fix it so you can leave the gates where they're at is just to mess with the gain, the input gain on the board, not the
Right.
not the pot. But I don't know.
Only had that 4-axis slider.
It's
Okay,
time
Jeremy,
the
I've
last
gotta-
X.
After I'm done pouring this, if I've got to show this to you, and you give me your impressions.
Okay.
That shit looks like a beer.
We're standing by. That's a
Where's-
bad mime.
He can't see.
Can we see it?
Have you ever had
Ooh.
this?
I've had beer in a pub,
Yeah,
but
me too.
Well, no, I mean, it's a funny thing. Of course, it looks like beer.
I've had
You know,
beer.
the generic beer. You've had beer before.
Oh, yeah, in Calgary.
Yeah, but no, this is made by a group called 10 Barrel Brewing, and they're out of Oregon. And it's fantastic. And of course, they have it in the beer can.
Sounds like hipster beer.
Beer.
It kind of does. Beer.
Yet it doesn't taste like
I
Pabst.
don't think I have not seen generic beer in ages.
This could be a 1-hour beer podcast, and I'd be fine with it, says the chat.
You probably can't sell generic beer anymore
No,
can't-
probably
well,
not.
you
due to
Yeah.
advertising laws.
But it would literally have to be like generic brand beer.
Well, I mean,
So
it
that
used
then
to be
people
that
be
they
like,
would.
oh, wow,
they would
this is
get-
groundbreaking. Let's get it.
No, they would get Bud or Coors, and if they had like some kind of overage at the breweries and they weren't selling, then they'd put the stuff in the beer cans, and Sell it as generic beer.
Yep. Just beer. And it was cheap.
It was cheap.
Not good.
Do you know Walgreens sells their own brand of beer?
Apparently, according to the IRC, Kirkland has their own beer.
Well, and to be honest, Loblaws has had their own beer forever up here. President's Choice beer was a thing for quite a while. Strangely, not bad. Couldn't buy it in those stores. You had to go to the liquor store, but still. Canada.
What was it? Walmart who just got struck down for selling craft beer, but it wasn't craft beer.
Yeah, they made up the brewery.
Yeah. Oops.
This is definitely not made by part-time workers in the back. Totally not.
No, then it would be craft though.
Yeah, that would have been craft beer.
Can you want to reach back and level that monitor out?
So was it something?
Which way does it need to go?
Well, it looks like the perspective is doing it to it, not the. See? Oh,
All right. that's-
well, no, I'm with
I
you.
got a glare in it.
Oh,
Well,
there you go. Now don't move.
hey everybody, welcome to the.
Kids, stop moving. The pitcher's going.
Alex, turn the antenna sideways.
It's only 23 minutes late.
Wrap it up in tinfoil.
We're doing the pre-post show. Pre-show.
Post pre-show?
Well, it ends up in the post show for the Patreon people.
When you
it's-
can listen to it for free if you just watch the podcast
If you just yes,
Live.
it's true. It's true.
on the internet.
Yes. But then you have to be here. So if you don't feel like being here on Wednesday night, then you have to pay us.
It seems unfortunate for me.
How much for a post show? What? Did that click in your head?
Yeah.
Good. Good Lord, there's a lot of money.
Kirkland Scotch.
It's
Yeah,
I've tried
it's a
it.
thing.
It's nothing anything to write home about.
Kirkland branded Glenlivet 40 year for $700. Why is this a thing?
What? That's a lot of money.
It's a 40-year single
Somewhere
wall.
out there, someone bought it.
Because Kirkland has money to spend on this kind of
Actually, it says 1972.
Well, I don't know when the photo was taken.
No, that's true.
crap. Okay, no, what they
Also, yeah,
it's
it's
all maturation stops once they put it in glass.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it was 2012 when they bottled it.
okay. Huh. Wonder what that tastes like.
It tastes like 40-year-old Glenlivet.
Okay. Are we already ready?
I think we're ready.
I'm ready.
Freddie.
Roger.
I'm ready for beer, or maybe some Max beer.
All right. Let's get this going before Josh gets the whole freaking 6-pack done.
All right.
Can you queue it up on your pages and tabs?
Yep.
And I think we can do this.
Cool. 3, 2. Hey, everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Pod. What?
I was scratching myself. You can't start the podcast on scratch.
Well, what'd you pick now to scratch for?
Because he's got bad
'Cause
taste.
you really counted
Christ, he's
fast.
Drinking Guinness Blonde.
All right. Anyway, are we ready now?
Mm-mm.
I think we should have just kept going. but
You were
that's fine.
Freddy before. Are you Freddy now? Okay.
Nice, Roger.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode number 437, being recorded February 15th, 2017. I'm Alan Malmontano.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm a rather white, and now a little bit more orange Josh Walrath.
And I'm the mysterious Ken.
Yes.
Why are you looking at that
Definitely
way?
less mysterious these days. Ruined my mystique.
Yeah. So, hey, it's a podcast thing. We're doing it. Podcast at PCPro.com if you want to email us about your papers. It's been a while. I'm not sure Ryan checks that email anymore.
Oh, God, no.
Well, what's it in the show notes for? Anyway,
Legacy.
we should probably check that email and see what's there. PCPro.com/podcast. is where you can find our podcasts. PCPro.com/subscribe, I think, which is not in the show notes anymore. Is where you can find that page right there, which is where you give us your name, your email address, and we send you little reminders before we do live events such as this podcast or when we have people in studio for interviews or whatnot. Twitter.com/Ryan Shrout or /PCPer if you want to yell at the boss, since he's abandoned us. So feel free to tweet away at him and yell at him this week. Or actually, is this an old version of the show notes?
What?
No, I don't know. Anyway, never mind. Patreon.com/PCPer is where if you want to help us keep the lights on, you may do so.
There's a lot of lights to keep on.
Yes, we have more lights now since we're in a larger building. And actually, I'm looking around at all sorts of, like, I think every light panel we have in this office is now, like, hooked up.
Well, yeah.
That used to not be the case. We used to have,
Because
like,
you got a big building, you need to heat it in wintertime.
these
Yes,
are LED,
so we're using LED lights.
these
to do
LED
it.
light
Yes.
panels don't do a very
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah.
Come on, it's still like 7 watts.
It's true, I guess. All right. I guess let's just jump right into it, huh?
No,
No?
no.
What do you want to talk
I
about
don't even
first?
have a pick yet. Could
Oh, Josh, just make it your beer or something.
Josh,
Beer,
could you
beer.
maybe get your act together?
Yeah, you got the
Why?
whole podcast.
I've had an entire week to procrastinate.
You got the whole podcast.
When
to
you
get
put
a-
it that way, I
to get
can
a pick in there.
commiserate with your procrastination.
Well, that's true. Okay, let's get into it. First story up: EVGA ICX technology. And we're talking about GPUs. So EVGA sent us a GTX 1080 FTW2 with ICX technology. I think is it also the 2 as well? That's the ICX version? I forget if it's
I think so. I think the 2 is a new designation.
yeah. So basically, as far as GTX 1080s go, this works the same as the GTX 1080 as far as like the, graphical processing capability. But what EVGA is trying to toy around with a little bit differently here is how the cooling works. Normally, if you have any EVGA card that has like a pair of cooling fans on it and heat pipes and whatnot, they're usually both connected to the same circuit and they both spin at about the same speeds, and it just kind of gets, ramped up and down based on your GPU temperature. And that's different now with this FTW2/ICX cooler or cooler design. What they've done is they've kind of partitioned off both fans, like both halves of the cooler. And one of the fans, the fan that's over the GPU side of the PCB, is linked to some kind of a feedback loop with temperature of the GPU itself. And then the other fan is linked to, I think it's 3 or 4 additional sensors, temperature sensors, that are on all of the power circuitry for the board. So you end up with, one fan cooling the GPU, the other fan cooling or making sure that temperatures of your power circuitry and, I think it's also some of the, or it's the power circuit that, what was the voltage regulator that was cooking on the previous EVGA product recently? I think it was the one for the, for the memory, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've kind of gone.
That was also because there wasn't any thermal.
Yeah, they
interface
forgot. Or they
material
just
on it.
Yeah, they
but-
just didn't put a thermal pad where they probably should have.
So hopefully this will also prevent that from ever happening again.
Yeah. As far as like performance differences, you're really not, for a person that just kind of plugs this in and doesn't do any kind of tweaking or overclocking or any of that stuff, you're definitely not going to really see a difference there. You might get into some, Ryan toyed around with it and didn't really, get, it wasn't like you're going to get vastly improved performance out of this, even if you do kind of mess around with the EVGA XOC and, do start turning some of the dials and whatnot. But what you do get is, kind of like better peace of mind. You get more information on what's going on. There's actually LEDs on the top of the
GPU, PWM, and memory.
yeah. I forget if we have a good picture that shows. Yeah, there, Ryan or Ken's got it.
There should be a video of it flipping back and forth.
Yeah, so you basically have 3 different LEDs on top or on the edge of the cooler, and they just change color based on which things are at which temperatures. So you get some kind of feedback there without even using the overclocking software or any kind of software for that matter. But if you do use EVGA Precision XOC, you get some more information there with this new version of this card. You actually get the actually gives you kind of a nifty PCB layout diagram and shows you where the temperatures are being measured and what those temperatures are. So pretty cool stuff. Might come in handier for some extreme overclocking kind of things, I would imagine. But, this thing just came out. We haven't seen any of that materialize yet. I believe this card will be a $30 premium. It's like 30 or $40 over the, the equivalent of that card without this ICX style setup.
Compared to the ACX 2.0 stuff that's currently in the market, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and if you've already got one, I think for $100 you can buy an upgrade kit.
No, it's not.
It'll get you this new one.
It's not buying an upgrade kit. It's a trade-in.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, they're basically buying your card back from you. Well, I mean, you're paying them, but you're paying the delta because they're going to have to take a loss on that card when they try to sell it as a, as a reman. So they kind of save you the trouble of trying to sell your other one used and getting another, because you're getting a new card.
Yeah.
For $100.
And I also think it restarts your EVGA as that 90-day upgrade program, the step-up program.
Oh, yeah.
So it resets that period. So let's say if a 1080 Ti potentially came out,
that's a good idea.
you'd be eligible to do the step-up. Yeah. I'm not sure if $100 is necessarily worth it for this sort of thing, because they did send out thermal pads and do fixes for the ACX 2.0 stuff. But
Or
it's still
just
less,
RMA it for free
yeah,
if you didn't want to do it yourself. It was a decent reaction to what was kind of a screw-up.
still less than ideal, but I don't think $100 is worth upgrading it. I think the $30 on sort of the purchase is a way better idea. But if you already have a 1080, maybe you'd look at this. But if you're the type of person who's had a 1080 for a while, you're probably looking for the next generation GPU, whatever, be it Vega or Pascal.
Huh. Cool. And Ryan and I had some discussion on this, what's the real deal with keeping those voltage regulators cool? And it's how often do they really fail? Unless you do something like don't put a thermal pad on it. But, then you're kind of getting it to the extreme. But,
Extreme.
VRMs is not a typical thing that people are just using their GPU and, my GPU failed, the VRM failed on it, All right, cool. What's on next? Dissecting Zen architecture.
Oh gosh, do we have to talk about that now?
I'm
I'm in the middle of trying to find my pick.
You have to talk about it.
You specifically.
You have to talk about
Your
have to talk
pick
about
is David Cantor.
it.
Well,
He's not for sale. I
Damn it.
asked.
Does he have a sister?
I didn't
Wow.
ask.
Oh, Josh,
Mhm.
I'm disappointed in you.
It's only one David I've ever asked that about. And
Yeah.
he's safe and sound in Canada. And so is his sister. Away from me.
He's staying there just because of you. He doesn't live in the States.
Well, it's possibly a point.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ryan and I had about an hour-long discussion with David Cantor about what we know about the Zen architecture and what's going to be showing up in Ryzen here in the next month or so. We dug down into many, many, many discussions about the overall architecture of the product. And it's a lot of information in that hour's time. I mean, we discussed, we kind of compared and contrast what AMD has done with their front end of the processor versus what Intel has done, what things are similar, what is different, We've gone into the execution units, how they handle the floating point, SIMD, AVX stuff. We went to the cache hierarchy and how like the L3 is a victim cache, the L1 and L2 cache, but the L1 and L2 cache are inclusive. So there's all kinds of information. And the one thing that we didn't discuss, and I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit here, is that when we're looking at these products and these processors, AMD has claimed that they're going to have a 40% increase in IPC from the previous generation of products, which is based on Excavator, to here. And we had discussed why that was the case, and mainly because Bulldozer was not a fantastic architecture for single thread throughput. And even though it did okay and pretty good in scaling to, for a 4-module product like the 8350, it could handle 8 threads really well and compete with some of the higher end Intel parts until, of course, you get into heavy floating point and SIMD type applications where AMD then kind of fell down a little bit. They've re-architected Zen so you don't rely on modules. You've got one integer unit, one floating point unit per core. And it's a significant upgrade. And why they were able to achieve that 40% is because Bulldozer in many ways was really that bad. And so they took all the good from Bulldozer and Jaguar architecture, and they've added new things like micro-op cache, better front end, better dispatch, all of these things that can help keep the pipelines filled, but still do it in a very, very power effective way. Something in this discussion I didn't know about is that AMD had developed these specialized capacitors that they spread throughout the entire core. And what happens when you put different cores to sleep or different portions to sleep, and then those portions are needed, then you've got to ramp those up fairly quickly. And power was the problem here. You couldn't deliver the power to that area fast enough and effectively enough without kind of stalling things out. And so that's why it took a little bit longer to clock them up. And by putting all these, thousands of miniature capacitors all throughout the design, these units are able to ramp up much more quickly without suffering any kind of voltage droop because of that. And so there's a ton of really interesting things. But again, going back to the area that I was thinking about is this is going to be kind of a one-time jump of 40%. For the next couple of years from both AMD and Intel, we're going to see a couple of percentage points of improvement just because of design. We're going to see improvement in clock speeds because everybody's going to be going down to smaller processes, whether it be 10 nanometer or below. But if you think about it, a lot of the low-hanging fruit of CPU performance has already been kind of consumed. Think about it. The integrated memory controller was the huge one. AMD got there first. Intel got there with, I believe, the Nehalem architecture. Huge caches. We've got, if you think back in the K6 days, you had something like 16K to 32K of L1 cache, and then you had L2 cache that was off die and running at half speed for like the original K7 or the Pentium 2 and Pentium 3. You had 512K of L2 cache that was running off the backside of the CPU, and then they integrated that into the core, and so that was kind of a big jump in terms of performance. It made the die size bigger, but it was, again, better performance. So now we've got large amounts of L2 cache. For Intel, it's 256K per core, 512K per core for AMD with Zen. And then we've got these massive L3 caches as well. And then add on to that a memory controller that's on the die, and you've got low latency to main memory. Still, it's a lot higher than what you get to the caches, but they have so many mechanisms going on that's filling these caches as needed and before the work needs to be done. That these things, a lot of the performance of modern processors will not ever take as big a jump as we've seen in the past 10 years. It's just going to be improvements in design, improvements in process technology, So AMD kind of jumping into the fray and getting competitive again is a really good thing. So if this discussion interests you in the least bit, go take an hour and watch the interview with David, Ryan, and myself. I thought it came out pretty well. There was a lot of interesting topics discussed, and some things that, if you're kind of a tech guy and you want to find these things out and why they run as they do, then go and listen and watch for a while. And I think I don't talk very much in the first 15 minutes, so that's positive for a lot of people.
You seem pretty shy in the first bit there.
I was kind of blushing at David a lot. I mean, he's kind of a superstar. And, yeah.
Just so you
That
know,
and
Josh.
Ryan and David would not let me get a word in edgewise, so I was done.
Just for your personal information, I listened to part of that interview in the shower.
Wow.
Well,
So,
That's how diehard
I mean,
Ken
yeah.
is.
Just want you to know.
A
Yeah.
nice long warm shower.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
rubbed the soap on his skin,
Yep.
and then he got the shampoo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's not talk about conditioner.
No.
All right. We have a case in the rundown, but we'll circle back to that probably. Because it's not a review.
It is not.
ECS Z170 lightsaber.
That's just got to be copyright infringement, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't have a lightsaber
I don't
on
like.
it.
That's Disney's got to have that term trademarked by now, right?
Well,
I don't.
they
I
don't
know.
sell it much over here in the North America. It's the rest of the world that you can see it in. So it may be that the mouse doesn't quite have his gloves on everyone.
But the trademark applies to the type of device.
Trademarks don't.
Disney doesn't care.
Can
Public
make it-
domain.
You couldn't make
for
a.
100-year-old character, no, you can't put that
I can't even think of
into
anything.
public domain.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know.
motherboards.
Anyway, motherboards. Yeah. So it's a motherboard made by ECS. Z170, which I'm surprised they're still coming out with Z170. I thought we were moving to the whole 270 thing at this point. But
It's mature.
well, I grant you that.
It's
But
probably less money.
180?
yeah.
Yeah, fair for a decent. I don't know. Well, it's kind of like AMD with the 990FX and all those other things. They're going to exist even under AM4 and Zen.
Why? Why are they going to exist, Josh?
Well, because
should be
there's-
killed.
like an 8350 is going to be like $100,
They should be killed.
and the lowest end Zen is going to be what, 130, 140.
Oh,
No one should buy an 8350 right now.
Maury says that is the last one.
Alas.
And then he shifts gears over to probably a entire chain of Z270 boards. So he
And
did
probably AM4 motherboards.
And AM4
And AM4
boards are getting
motherboards,
tossed
yeah.
at him too.
So Maury did his typical treatment. He put the enormous gigahugic CPU cooler
what page is
on
that
it.
on?
That was page 3. Checks the layout of the whole thing. Features look good.
Well, the M.2 is limited to PCI 2X, which
What?
isn't wonderful.
That's seriously?
They ran out of lanes.
That's a problem.
There's 3 PCIe 16s and 4 1s.
See, here's the thing.
And at this
They
point,
didn't-
you're starting to run out of lanes.
They didn't run out of lanes because they have 6 SATA ports, and you could easily just make it replace 2 of the SATAs. Like it's designed to do that. So
yeah, well,
if they
chose
to, yeah, they could have just chosen to wire it differently and put the M.2 on. They're probably trying to connect it straight to the CPU.
that would be my assumption.
But you don't absolutely have to in a board. It's not like it has so many M.2s you're going to run out of SATAs if you're going to try to put 3 M.2
Right.
SSDs in there. But yeah, okay. That's weird that they would.
Yeah, I
choose
thought it
to-
was as well.
Yeah, because it's like I could see maybe if you had the argument that maybe the M.2 performance wouldn't be as good, through the chipset as compared to through the CPU. Well, it'd be a heck of a lot better if you have 4 lanes through the chipset as opposed to 2 lanes to the CPU.
Yeah, but if you're doing a direct comparison to another motherboard with a 4-lane and it doesn't measure up, it's
I guess I just
going to be upset. I don't know. It's a weird decision, but it's the one they went with.
okay.
More beneficial, they slapped both a DisplayPort and an HDMI on the back,
That's cool.
which is kind of nice.
Benchmarks look like every other motherboard, basically. Every other Z170 board. There's not going to be anything crazy with 270 either, by the way, just so people know. All you got is 4 more lanes off of the chipset,
Well,
presumably to help
yeah.
with Optane stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the reason for motherboard benchmarks is to make sure they're not awful, not to
Yeah.
make sure that they're good.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, they're all within like a couple of percentage points
You
of each
hope.
other.
I mean, there are probably some motherboards out there that just have some really bad
Yeah.
routing and just,
actually
We
get
routed your
errors that they have
M.2
to
through the
correct.
RGB so that it'll glow better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to have affected performance somewhat, but it's okay.
What is the Helist's pricing as a strength? I'm looking for the pricing.
180.
Oh.
Mention it right up at the top.
Pretty good
Might
for
even be on sale.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Especially since, it'll still work with all the Kaby Lake stuff, so.
yeah, it works with Kaby Lake, and like a desktop board like this, you're not that worried about trying to plug Optane stuff into it anyway. Not for caching, which is what you need the extra 4 lanes on.
Oh. And there
Yeah.
you go. There's the decision. No bandwidth sharing between PCIe slots, SATA Express ports, nor the M.2.
Yeah.
So they're all wired directly.
Yeah,
That's smart or not?
it's
Tough
kind of
choice.
Depends on what you're looking for. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that big a deal because if you want an NVMe SSD that's by 4, you could just put it in one of the by 16 slots.
you could. Yeah, actually, that bottom slot is will it be a by 4? I think.
I think so. I think it depends on what you have in there. So
Yeah, it's true.
yeah.
All right, cool. What's next? News. Now we can go to the Andes AI Crystal tempered glass chassis that's impossible to photograph.
It really is. Because
No, you just got to keep the side film on, and it's easy to photograph. Look at that.
That's not the film.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm pretty
That's-
sure he's got plaster walls.
That's the plaster
Oh,
wall you're looking
yeah,
at.
you're right. Plaster walls.
Yeah. And then the other thing is the curtain on the front. You're looking at
Yeah.
whatever curtain was off into the...
On the other hand, this does speak to how shiny the bloody thing is.
It's super, super shiny. I'll give it that. I mean, it looks pretty cool.
It's huge, too. It'll fit EATXs in there.
That's also cool.
You
Yep,
know what
that
I see in
top-
those pictures?
Fingerprints.
Fingerprints.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can't see any fingerprints. You're looking at the wall and the curtain. There's
I
your
think
solution
this
to
was
get rid
the
of
very first
fingerprints.
one.
Just put a bunch of weird patterns on off to the side of the mirrored thing that you're trying to take pictures of.
Not compatible with children.
No.
But and for cooling, it's pretty nice. It comes with 320 mil fans installed. That top spot will hold a 360 mil radiator. You can also rip off the front fans and put one in there as well at the same time. So it's very cooling friendly. PSU sits in a shroud below the system. Thank you, camera. All of your wires, all of your SATA SSDs mount behind the motherboard tray. So you will get a clean system that you actually want people to be able to see through the fingerprints. I don't know, it's pretty.
Cool. All right.
Had anyone ever heard of that company before?
I
Yeah.
have Andes.
They
And
were at
Andes?
CES. They did like the wonderfully named AI-4B, which was like a little micro ATX one. And there's another one that they put out that I can't think of that was a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised. There's so many case companies out there that there's no way I've heard of all of them. But that seems
No
to be
way.
like a nice case from a company I haven't heard of. So that's always cool to see.
Cool. All right. Next up, Scott Michaud, WebKit proposal for Web GPU. What is this all about? I did not read this. Who read this? Bueller. Everybody's frantically reading this news post.
I ain't read ship.
It's WebGL?
But
Apple-
It's competitor to WebGL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
It's Apple's answer to WebGL because why would Apple just implement the standard?
Are they even part of the OpenGL group, Apple,
I think they are.
Kronos?
Yeah.
Then why in the hell don't they implement it?
Because
Because it's Apple.
Well, I mean, they implement OpenGL.
Yeah.
I mean, there must be some, like, I don't know,
What
some
is-
advantage they get from doing a new standard based off their Metal API.
Okay,
But
so
I
this
don't know
is-
what that would be.
This is just the browser rendering thing in Apple devices. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I mean, WebGL is like a framework for accelerated 3D rendering inside a browser.
Okay.
And this is Apple's apparently seems to be announcing a competitive.
No, because didn't they get
Standard.
all pissy at WebCL and pretty much nail it into its coffin?
I don't know.
Very
Moving
vague.
on.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Blender 2.78b came out, which looks like it was just a performance optimization round of Blender 2.78, which came out a little while ago because I know Scott covered that probably when it came out, or at least he was talking about it.
It's kind of interesting because this bug fix seems to have solving some bugs in Intel CPU implementation that were found.
Yeah, that
Which
might
is interesting because this Blender is the first application that AMD compared themselves to Intel with
Yes.
their Ryzen CPUs.
Yes, so that might make things kind of interesting. So it turns out there was a bug in the Blender code that made things go slower on Intel CPUs specifically.
No, it was a bug that made things slower on both CPUs.
Wasn't it? I thought it was more slower.
No,
on an Intel.
it was a design decision that went against the best practices of both CPU manufacturers,
Oh,
but it ended up affecting Intel more than AMD.
yeah, that's the
So
one
it
I
was
saying.
something that, in theory, both parties would want fixed because it's against their best practices
Yeah,
for CPU programming.
But we
but-
recently saw a Blender demo from AMD.
I mean, it's been a while now, but yeah.
It's been a while, but they were comparing their new CPU to an Intel CPU, and they looked roughly the same. But as it turns out, that might not actually be the case now that this bug was fixed.
I think we might find out pretty soon.
We should find out hopefully pretty soon
Yeah.
what the end result of that is. But with this bug fix, what was the...
Contempt developers are dancing in joy.
No. What was the... let's see. Well, it's not that big of a difference in speed from what Scott did as like a couple of test renders.
Sure,
But-
he's GPU rendering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this bug only came up in like a specific type like of thing of render operation. Also,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
like it was one
the exact
section of
details.
code that was a repetitive loop kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, what is next?
I don't know what is next.
Nvidia quarter 4
Billions.
results. Probably something to
Oh,
do
it's
with
me again.
probably something to
I
do
didn't
with
even
like
pour a
lots
fresh
of
beer.
money,
I
right?
told you to.
So anyway,
How much money, Josh?
Did they just open the printing press in the bottom of the office to just
pretty
crank
well,
out the
they
money?
have that new building, and below there they have a tunnel that runs to Tijuana, Mexico. They've been smuggling a lot of really interesting things through that tunnel, and that's been adding to their bottom line.
Avocados.
Yes,
It's all about the
from
avocados.
Mexico. It's the freshest, greenest avocados from Nvidia. Makes sense, right? No?
Suddenly, that logo makes far more sense.
Yeah, it's the right color.
It does. It does.
And it's avocado shaped.
Hmm.
They don't have to go through all that processing. They don't have to go through, Department of Agriculture.
Yeah. Skips all that.
They just mainline that guacamole.
Pass the savings on to the consumer.
Goes under the wall.
Exactly.
You know.
Except that there's no savings to the consumer when you look at the bottom line. So anyway, they made $2.173 billion last quarter.
Are you
Which
holding
is
your,
a
are you holding
record
your
amount
pinky
for
to the corner of your mouth when you say that?
What?
Are you holding
Open
your
my
pinky
finger?
to your, yes.
Yeah, $2.173 billion.
Holy crap.
The details of my life are quite inconsequential.
That's a lot of dollars.
It is, and especially when they don't have CPUs. I mean, they do with kind of Tesla stuff, and well, not Tesla, but
Tegra.
Tegra, and their Drive PX that they're selling to Audi, Mercedes, all these other guys, Bosch. They're moving stuff. Gaming though is huge. If you look at that Q4 FY17 gaming accounted for $1.348 billion. That's a lot of GPUs sold. You go down the list, and it's like professional visualization, which is Quadro, 225. Not the most it's been, but still, it's still climbing. Data center, that was the huge amount of growth. If you look at last year, Q4 of 2016, and of course, their nomenclature for quarterly results reflect financial quarter and not calendar. And so all their stuff is always a year in advance. And it had to do with how they did their IPO and reporting. And it's crazy, but that's the way they do it, and they're sticking with it. And they certainly can't go back another year and have, well, this is our Q1 2016 V2. Doesn't work that way. But anyway.
And besides, it's easier to keep ahead of the IRS when you're a full year ahead of them.
Pretty much. They get to keep all that money interest-free. Data center. I mean, in year on year, it grew almost 300%. And that's their P100, all the other Quadros that are going into there. It's not. Why do I keep thinking Tesla?
Well, that would be Tesla. Those would be the
Okay,
headless GPUs.
Teslas would still be around.
Yeah. Tesla. Sorry. I didn't know how smart I was. Shocking. Memory. But anyway, the only thing that went down was their OEM and IP work. And that is essentially the royalties group. And if you remember some time back, Intel had licensed out technology for their integrated graphics. And it wasn't that they integrated NVIDIA technology into their graphics. They kind of used the IP as an umbrella to protect them from any kind of IP lawsuits or anything like that. And so the rumor is that they're going to go to AMD for that next time. And NVIDIA said that it likely will not be renewed with them. So it sounds like NVIDIA is kind of taking a hike, and Intel is going to be under the IP licenses of, well, the IP umbrella of AMD for the next couple of years. And that's going to be some significant amount of money. I mean, it's like $3 billion over 4 or 5 years, which it's a good chunk of change for a group like AMD. But if you look at AMD's last quarter, they had 1.17 billion. So NVIDIA, not even doing CPUs or APUs, except for, a limited amount of Tegra's Drive PX stuff. They kind of kicked into high gear with the GTX 10 series of parts. And I think that the 1070, 1080 sold pretty well, and their margins were like 60%, which compare that to AMD, whose margins were maybe 30, 31%. So we can see where, NVIDIA is doing well. And congratulations to them on being a $2 billion a quarter company, which is kind of a big deal.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
It's a lot of money.
Guacamole.
That's a real lot of money. All right, what's up next? Oh yeah. What was the model number of this? So Intel, there was another leak again about this Optane stuff. This whole Optane thing leaks like a sieve.
I mean,
Just
so do their CPUs and their chipsets.
I know, but there's
all
been
the Intel stuff leaks.
This is like the fourth leak. We have yet to test one of these things. This is like the fourth leak and like the third press announcement related to it, and yeah. Anyway, so there was a leak about this SSD DC P4800X. So this is a 375 gigabyte add-in card. It'll be half height, half length. It'll look just like like an SSD 750 from Intel. It's just that standard form factor, most likely. It's only 375 gig because it's using Optane. So this is cross-point memory, non-volatile memory that at speed is more closer to RAM than it is to NAND flash, but it still has to go through a controller and it still has to talk to the system over NVMe. So it's not going to be as fast as RAM, and you're still bottlenecked by, a by 4 PCIe link. But a lot of sites pick this up and they just kind of like rattled off a bunch of specs, and they're like, hey, there's this, because we really only have like the cover of the data sheet, because Intel pulled it pretty quickly after the leak happened. So everybody was pretty much just parroting out what all the specs were. I figured I would take this a little further and actually do some comparisons to NVMe Enterprise SSDs that we had tested already, and kind of go off of their specs and go, okay, hypothetically, where would this sit if it at least performed to the level of the specs? So orange and blue line there that are pretty low on that chart for random performance is the like 2 fastest NVMe parts that we've tested. So the Micron 9100 and then the Intel's most recent, which is the P3520.
Like that thin red line, though.
Yeah, and then there's this red line.
It's
that's
a lot higher than the other lines.
There's a red line that's like 3, 4, 5 times higher, depending on where you look at it.
It's a lot more level than the other lines.
Well, I mean, it might have a bathtub kind of curve
true.
to it in reality. We just don't know. But that's fairly significant of a performance difference.
That's kind of insane. I mean, who'd have thought that a memory controller could do that kind of IOPS to Crosspoint?
Yeah. And I mean,
not so much the memory controller. I mean, because that does thousands, then hundreds of thousands of to
yeah,
our DRAM.
But it's a memory controller. But it's a memory controller that has to speak through a translation of NVMe protocol and do it over PCIe, not a really wide DIMM bus or something.
Oh.
Right. So reasonably impressive there. It's actually not all the way like what the max theoretical you could get over those 4 lanes, but it's still pretty high. The reason that the other 2 NAND-based SSDs actually don't look that great, those parts will go faster than those 2 lines there, but they won't do it at QDepth 16, which is the QDepth that spec for the Crosspoint part, for the Optane part, is rated at. So Intel's actually getting kind of bold on even how they're speccing this. And honestly, QDepth 16 is probably, if you go any higher than that on something with Optane on it, it's probably not going to go any faster at that point. Whereas a NAND part would, for NVMe, it would need to ramp all the way up to QDepth 256 or something to see that full speed of that part. So that's the other thing that Optane's really good for. It just almost immediately ramps up to its full IOPS capability at a much lower QDepth. Another thing I kind of hypothesized on, or kind of took some guesses at based on the specs, is where the quality of service might sit. So again, I have an orange and a blue line on a chart just showing what the quality of service plot would look like for for those 2, for the Intel and the Micron NAND-based parts. And the major increments on this chart here is times 10. So it's a log scale. Every time you go to another major increment, it's times 10 if you're going to the right, it's 1/10 if you're going to the left. And we're talking about latency. So the spec for the Optane part is basically 1/10 of the latency. That would be its maximum allowed latency at the various points on this plot.
Remember last week, or 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about, Optane was being, and I know personally, I was saying, how could this be an improvement over NVMe?
Right.
And I mean, they're kicking the living crap out of NVMe through this. I'm stunned how fast and how low latency this really is when actually implemented, if it lives up to the specs.
Well, realize the chart we're looking at right there for quality of service, that's not even the typical, that's the maximum latency that you're going to see. In other words, it's for the outliers, right? It's for, the slowest this thing could possibly go on any of the IOs that are happening. So not like the typical. The typical, which is actually in the spec sheet, typical latency is quoted at less than 10 microseconds, which is the bottom end of our latency percentile charts. In other words, for me to test this stuff when it comes in, I have to rework our suite and make it work and output latency bins at lower than 10 micro. So it's,
which of course every other SSD you test would totally show up at that point.
well, that's
They're going to start halfway across the grid.
no, right. That's my point. Like even the fastest thing we tested before at Q depth of 1, at the lowest Q depth possible, where it had the best chance to have like the lowest latency possible, NVMe parts, Samsung like 960 Pro, which is like, the lowest response time thing we've tested, still was not off of that scale to the left. And basically like, Optane stuff is just going to run there pretty much all the time, except for the outliers that are running like it, in the 99% or above. So, I mean, it looks great again on paper and from a leak, like everything else we've seen so far for Optane stuff.
Now, how about wear cycles? I know that the number that they're giving out is kind of insane.
Well, it's okay. So all of these numbers, as good as they are still not as good as the original thing when it was first announced as Crosspoint before it had the Optane branding for Intel, or the Quant X branding for Micron side. The quotes were like even better than this, but they were going off of what is the pure, like if you were talking straight to a die of Crosspoint versus talking straight to a die of NAND
because I
flash,
didn't
right?
know how their controller would
Yeah,
behave
the
at that
controller
point.
implementation, all that stuff, right? They were basically, and they kind of goofed by doing that. I mean, I'm sure they were excited about it because if you were to write a bit to that stuff, it's actually like this many times faster than to write that same bit to NAND, right? They were correct. They weren't lying. It's just that once you try to implement it in something, in this case, something that talks over NVMe, there's some hops you have to make. The endurance is also probably not as good as what the theoretical maximum was when they were comparing it to NAND, as far as how much, like, because I think that was one of their 1,000 figures.
Yeah.
I think it was like 1,000 times more endurance than NAND. Right?
Yeah.
Not the case here. The endurance is still good. It's rated at 30 drive writes per day, like the max.
That's kind of nuts.
Well, yes.
But then again, you could do a 2 terabyte drive every day quite quickly with this.
That's true too. You have to realize this is only 375 gig. But again, the drive writes per day, it goes proportional, like it doesn't matter what size the SSD is when you rate it in drive writes per day. That's 30 is a big number.
I mean, that's still 7.5 terabytes a day.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's a lot. And with the IOPS that this thing,
tech report.
well, with the with the IOPS that this thing is capable of, it actually wouldn't take that long to blow through that. Even if you were doing pure 4K random to this thing, it would still, it would still, you'd still be able to blow through that pretty quickly. The other thing you have to consider here is that, and I didn't even write this in the article, it just kind of like dawned on me now. For the NAND-based SSDs, they'll have ratings for your endurance, but they won't kind of be the same. Like they'll be kind of like a couple of different ratings, or people aren't sure if it's based on host writes or flash writes, because there's actually an amplification factor. If you do 4K random to a NAND-based SSD, it's actually writing more than 4K every time you try to write 4K, because it has to erase a larger block of flash to do that. So there's an amplification depending on how bad or how hard the workload is. For this stuff, that doesn't apply, because Crosspoint can be rewritten at the byte level.
Yeah.
It doesn't care. So you can just, I want to rewrite that byte. It'll just rewrite that byte. Doesn't have to erase a whole block, come back later, fill stuff in, juggle stuff around. None of that applies. So also very good from, so not only 30 drive writes per day, but also you could do that 30 drive writes per day, pure 4K random, and probably still do the 30 drive writes worth, which is just puts it, again, like
file servers often do.
Yeah, but so the total is 12.3 petabytes. And if you have a server doing such a demanding task where you're doing that much throughput a day.
Yeah.
You're not going to keep the server running for 2 years. You're going to have new hardware.
Well, I think
Right.
that works out to either a 3 or a 5 year rating. I didn't do the math.
But I mean, something that cutting edge is going to be on a frequent enough upgrade cycle, I'd imagine.
Yeah, this is with such a small capacity. This kind of a part is really meant to be like a caching tier. And what's funny is it could be a caching tier on top of NAND.
Yeah.
It
'Cause
could be.
You can throw your really tiny writes at this and actually save on the endurance on your NAND if it's doing the bigger writes. You'd still get low latency, but you wouldn't get the really, kind of like the worst quality of service you get if you try to hit, a non-optimal enterprise part with 4K random. Like that's where you actually see the tail latency start to go crazy.
I mean, it's like adding 375 additional gigs to your SQL server to use as sort of a cache for persistent storage as you're shuffling stuff around and you need it to be super fast.
Yep.
Yeah, or as the front end that they hit, and then it just dumps it backwards into the slower SSDs.
Yeah.
Yep.
The slower.
The slower
The slower.
My SSD is so slow.
Well, the thing is, with something like this, you can actually get away with still staying with solid state for your bulk storage even, but going cheaper on it. Like you can just go to like the low-cost SATA parts that are coming out.
Yeah.
Just make a big old array of those. Your random performance isn't going to be that great with that, but who cares? You have this caching tier with even faster stuff. That wouldn't really break the bank for just this, like 1 or 2 of these cards compared to trying to do your entire array out of something that would go that speed.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be cheaper than RAM.
Yeah.
So at least go on that. 375 gig, cheaper than RAM. Like if you do the math on RAM costs,
Yeah.
it's still not going to be horrible. Given the performance you get out of it, it's going to be pretty darn good.
It'll be interesting to see once we finally see it.
Once we finally see it, yeah. What do we got next?
They don't have a price for that yet, do they?
It's just all we have is a leaked spec sheet, Josh.
If you have to ask, Josh.
Yeah, I can't afford it.
I mean, you're probably talking like, if I had to guess, like $4 a gig or something. $4 or $5 a gig.
I'd say, with 384 gigs,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if they had $700 for that. But where are they aiming this? Really?
Well, $700 would be like $2 a gig.
I mean, data centers right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pure data center part. It's literally
Then yeah,
Amazon will be
it's probably going to be 10
throwing
times
this.
that.
Yeah, this is literally DC is in the part number, so like, yeah, it's for data centers. And again, it's not for enthusiasts.
Don't tell me what it's not
Dang it.
for.
Okay. As long as you have backups, like continuously, then use whatever the heck you want. But just don't expect this thing to like, not brick itself if it smells something a
I'm
little
going
bit
to
funny.
put my Windows 10 on this SSD and I'm going to boot from it.
Hey, you know what? Intel probably wouldn't even put a boot ROM on it.
I'm going to boot from
I
it.
bet you they won't.
Okay. We'll see.
You'll have to solder it in. 'Cause I don't think this is for booting.
Intel's done this
We'll see.
before. They've just
True.
not put a boot ROM on. They did it like with the SSD 910, which was that
Oh, that stupid PCIe.
PCIe
thing.
SSD
Yeah.
with 4 SAS parts behind LSI controller.
They probably
they-
couldn't figure out how to
who's
put a boot ROM on
Wozniak?
it.
No,
this
they
group
they
that always did
specifically
that.
they specifically omitted the boot ROM from the LSI. The LSI chip could have been bootable.
Nice.
They specifically omitted it. I was like, oh, okay.
Looking
Alan,
out
what
for
was,
you.
what was that PCI SSD group that Wozniak was investor in?
Fusion IO.
Yeah, that was Fusion.
Yeah, Fusion IO. Fusion.
He was
Version.
on there. He was on their board.
Who bought them? SanDisk?
SanDisk, and then Western Digital now got SanDisk. Yeah, it's just it's somebody could draw
you think
like
there's still
But I
some?
remember back in the day that people were pissed because Fusion IO stuff was so fast, but you couldn't boot from it.
That Alan was pissed.
Well, part of the reason
Yeah.
part of the reason it was so fast is because it was using the host as its flash management.
Yeah.
You can do amazing things when your flash memory is just a dumb address space and you just buffer a bunch of stuff on the
Use that
host.
quad
and
core CPU.
it was actually a challenge for me to test back in the day because I was limiting, like, my limit on one of the early Fusion IO drives was the CPU. I was
Yeah.
pegging threads
Yeah.
in the system, not because of throwing the IOs at it, but because its driver was also pegging additional threads on top of me throwing the IOs at it. So, yeah, I mean, yes, they were faster than everybody else, but at the cost of, CPU resources and RAM resources, the of the system you had it plugged into. So
It goes fast. Who cares if it's safe?
yeah, and they couldn't figure out just some way to get a boot environment just to kind of get it into the protected mode,
Yeah.
just so that it could,
They just didn't care.
no,
Like,
no, they
that's
didn't.
not what that was for.
The problem was they kept promising it and then not delivering.
Here,
That was the problem.
buy this $15,000 drive. It'll be bootable.
Yeah.
I swear.
Initially, it was like, we're going to do this in a firmware update. And then it was turned into, it never, ever happened. 10 years later, it still isn't.
You think there's still some like guys working in a
There's a guy writing a BIOS
There's just like
still.
a guy
He's
working
just-
in a
he's
lab
in
somewhere.
assembly trying to get this
he's
all
still,
going in
he's still
firmware.
trying to get it running.
And after like
Still.
all of the mergers, like they didn't fix the payroll glitch, and he's still getting
Yeah.
paid, and
He's in the
He's
basement.
still writing this Fusion IO
He's in
firmware.
Western Digital's basement right now.
Yeah, he and his stapler.
I was told I could make this bootable. All right. Wow. What's next?
Let's move on
You've
already.
written over my address space.
I was told I could have this address space. Okay. Next up.
It's nice and light and fluffy.
Yeah. AMD Radeon Crimson I gotta pronounce this correctly.
Live.
Relive.
No.
Because you relive the moment.
Rel IV.
Relive. Well,
Relieve.
really. You frequently
No, that's
relieve
spelled
yourself. Oh, wait, no.
ROLAIDS.
Oh, God. All right.
What's in this driver, Jeremy?
What is it? 17.2.1. Okay.
So it's not that you'll be game ready for Honor or Sniper Elite 4 because someone else got that, but you will see a bit of a boost for the two new ones that are coming out, For Honor and Sniper Elite 4, which now that I think about it should be totally combined into one game because that would be very entertaining.
Okay.
But apart from that, there's a couple little bug patches for people with FreeSync monitors where there's been a couple of games which have just completely ignored the entire variable refresh. And when you're playing around with, as I think it was Scott said, some of the newer H.264 videos, that they're not going to look like you're fast forwarding through a VHS tape.
All right.
That's always
Not so
positive. New drivers
Beta.
are good.
New drivers are good.
Beta was good.
Let's see here. Next up, MX300 2 terabyte, which we actually have here.
Wait, what?
I didn't ask that thing.
Oh,
Sorry, our Echo decided to start yapping at us. MX300, now goes all the way up to 2 terabytes. It started out with just a 750 gig, but then that was quote unquote limited edition. So they don't make the 750 anymore.
It's 2 terabytes and even increment of that weird.
No, but they backed off the 750 and they made it into like a 500 or 1 terabyte or 250.
This one's like 2050 or
But it actually,
2075.
but actually it wasn't those three numbers I said. It was like 525.
I've seen them
You know,
sold as
two-
like a 525 and a 375 or 325.
It's like a 2
whatever.
75
yeah,
or something.
275 and a
And then
525.
and then it's like a 1050, but then it goes to a 2050. So I don't know where the extra 50 went when you went from the 1050 to the 2050. Anyway,
I should have just over provisioned it a little more and given you
Yeah.
the things you expected.
Well, but the thing with this one, and I mean, you help fix it all as well, Al, but what I'm curious, and I couldn't figure out through Hardware Canucks, is what has this done to their dynamic cache?
when
What
you
is
have
the size of the SLC pool now?
the thing is, even though it might still be juggling between SLC and TLC back and forth, like once you get, it's a SATA part. If you get up to 2 terabytes in a SATA part, even with the slower SLC stuff or TLC stuff, even this SSD is probably still going to either have so much of a cache there.
It's got a gig,
Well,
like
yeah.
of DRAM plus the SLC.
Well, it's got, okay, so it's got a gig of RAM, but realize that's probably not operating as a RAM cache. The reason that they increase that amount of memory is that's RAM that's used for like where leveling and like it keeps track of the tables for where stuff is being stored in the flash. So the flash translation layer table has to be put somewhere where it can be talked to quickly, and that's what the RAM is really for. Micron's stance on the cache thing is that after they did their fix, it will always try it's best to have, I think the number they gave me was like 16 gig of flash that is available in SLC mode. You can trip it up if you put a bunch of stuff on it at once, possibly, but it has to be close to full, and then you try to write like 32 gig to it when it only had 16 gig of it in SLC available. And then you might run into a situation where it kind of dips down to slower speeds and goes faster and back and forth. But when you get all the way up to 2 terabytes, like even when it does dip to the slower speed is still going to be pretty good, probably. So anyway, food for thought. The idea behind these is that because they're TLC, as far as their rating, you know, and they have a TLC operating mode, that they're basically really cheap, like per gig. So
27.5 cents per gigabyte on Amazon right now.
for 2 terabytes.
Mm-hmm.
20, like just right now you could buy it less than 30 cents a gig. So that's like,
yeah, it's $550 for the 2 terabyte drive.
that's
beautiful.
That's like enthusiasts would potentially just like not even bat an eye at that.
Might be a very good Steam library.
Yeah. I mean, you're spending $650 on your 1080. So what's like, you know, that for 2 terabytes, which is basically like a lot of Steam games.
Get rid of that rust.
Yeah.
Kill it.
Yeah.
You don't need
I
it.
like my Rust.
And especially drives like this, especially for like Steam libraries for enthusiasts, is especially good because you're not so worried about the write speed. It's your Steam library. It's you're reading from it. You know, you're not worried about running out of cache.
Yeah.
And whether you're TLC or SLC, the read speeds of especially SATA parts generally, like the read latencies and everything, like it doesn't matter if it's SLC, MLC, or TLC as far as, you know, as far as how much throughput you get and how low the latency is. So,
The 2 terabyte 850 EVO is $700.
yeah, so another $150 more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, that 850 EVO, you could like write all day long and it will never dip below saturating SATA.
Yeah.
Because for 850 EVOs, just Samsung's 3D NAND is just faster, right? Even once you hit the 500 gig point on those is where it's basically just, it doesn't care. Like you don't even notice if it drops TLC speed because it's still going like 520 meg per second or whatever. Anyway, anything else on that?
I
Anybody?
don't think so.
Bueller? No.
Other than I'd like one for free.
Too bad.
They're cheap.
Okay. Another. Speaking of driver updates, just like AMD had one, NVIDIA. Go figure. 378.
It's almost like there's like For Honor and Sniper 4 and some other program.
Halo Wars.
Yeah. So 378.66. And what was the OpenCL 2.0?
Well, yeah, this was a bit of a working man's driver as well. So
Huh.
NVIDIA's been kind of ignoring the fact that OpenCL is still being developed.
Yeah.
They've sort of done beta support-ish, kind of. We don't want to, but we have to.
Right.
This one, it's boom. And so now, and it makes sense because a lot of GPU-intensive stuff where you're doing it, instead of having to go off and talk to the CPU and wait for the instructions to come back, it can do it on the CPU, or on the GPU rather. Good for content developers.
Cool.
They've also dumped up their video SDK to 8.0, so now you got 10-bit and 12-bit encoding because we've all got 12-bit monitors, but it's good to be able to do it.
All right. Sweet. And hopefully they didn't like regress any features and make something break that
Because
they have to
the
fix.
last WHQL drivers certainly did a number on a certain amount of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much for Steam in-house streaming
Yeah. No.
and other
uses
issues.
Who needs that?
Who,
Nobody
needs,
needs that.
who uses that crap?
Hey, remember that
Not
Optane
that.
stuff we were just talking about for like a half an hour?
Yeah.
Hey, there's more.
There's not really more.
Except now, yeah, that's true.
There's
not
this
really more.
cheesy
There's
photo.
Now it's not a leak though, and it's not a press release.
Yeah, but they didn't
It's-
give us any real details.
It's actually that there's, well, that's true. They didn't give us specs, but luckily we had the specs from a leak before, so we're good. But now we actually know what it looks like.
some bare space on that PCB.
Yeah.
It's like they could fit another package there.
Well, they're
Yeah.
sticking with M.2 2280.
They could stick a boot ROM on
I think
there.
the site did say it's available in the shorter length.
Yeah, but the shorter length is for the single die version, the 16 gig version. So we talked a few weeks back about Intel Optane Memory 8000P series, which is basically like a storage accelerator, which we saw during CES on like some of the Lenovo product specs, right? For laptops they had coming out, they had like an optional feature.
Yeah, and Z270 motherboard specs mentioning it.
Yep, you need 7th generation, Intel hardware to be able to support this as a cache, right? But it's basically a 16 gig or 32 gig Optane SSD on M.2 form factor. It's only 2 lanes, not 4 lanes, but it's really not meant as a like end user buy this thing and plug it into a system kind of upgrade. It's meant for OEMs, really. Like it's meant to come pre-configured in a system. Think like your Dell systems. Actually, the video for this Optane thing is they show like a small business or whatever, and people are like waiting on their hard drives that are just crawling, right? Your typical, if you are still a hard drive user, every day of your life, you're just waiting on a crawling system, basically. It's pretty horrible. I recently did a Windows reinstall for somebody on a system with only a hard drive, and I was like, I almost drove to my house and got an SSD to just put in their system. It would have still been faster.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, like 16 or 32 gigs of cache probably isn't going to work that well with an SSD. They're really targeting sort of OEM systems here.
Yeah.
Sub $1,000 systems that don't have SSDs.
Yeah, because, this is only connected with 2 lanes. So if you're doing anything sequential, like NVMe M.2, like a 960 Pro is going to walk all over this sequentially, right? Yeah. But, so it's basically meant as like a, really badass version of a cache for hard drives. Probably the kind of thing that Intel originally tried to do with the whole rapid storage technology thing, like way back when they had the, now I can't remember the name of it, but there was a 20 gigabyte SLC SSD.
Yeah.
It's on my desk over there. I forgot what they called it. It was like some creek or bridge or ridge or, one of those things.
Dale.
Dale or anyway. But that never caught on at the time because at that time you could either buy that 20 gigabyte SSD or you could buy like a 64 gig, OCZ ND-Lynx based SSD or something like that, right? And put your whole OS on it.
Yeah.
Because remember back then you were like Windows XP for some people or Vista, and you could still kind of get away with a smallish install. If you were okay with the enthusiasts back then had the mentality of have the small Velociraptor and then your large, bigger disk anyway. So people were okay with moving to a slightly smaller thing that was an SSD just as their whole OS, like C drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back in the day,
right? So people just kind of like went that way instead of using the rapid storage technology thing from Intel. And then it kind of like died on the vine, at least on that stuff. But the technology still exists. Like even today, you can take up to, I think, a 64 gigabyte SSD or 64 gigabytes of an SSD and make it a cache for a hard disk under Intel RST. Like it's still there. So they're probably just taking that and just adapting it to work with, this Optane module instead.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if it's like, this kind of makes me think that I think they might be selling it and like eating some of the cost. Because if you're going to include a 16 gigabyte thing and an OEM part in lieu of an SSD to accelerate a hard disk, and it costs like, say, $4 a gig, that's like $64.
I mean, we have no idea how much this costs, so it can't.
It just seems like,
can't really do that.
It seems like so it has to be cheap is my point.
Yeah.
That'd
be the entire point of it.
So if it only adds like $20 or $30 to the,
and guess what? If you're buying several thousand,
if it's an
probably
OEM,
a bit cheaper.
If it's an OEM, they're probably getting them for like $10 a pop or something or less, right? So you can get much better performance out of your system that you were going to sell with only a hard drive anyway, for an additional $10, right? and then you can claim. I think the thing that's really going to let people get away with is things that cache smallish amounts of data like this do amazingly well on your quick run kind of benchmarks. So like PC Mark is going to all of a sudden become an amazing spec on the storage system with a system with one of these in it. Even though you might not get that speed all the time, benchmarks like that only hit so many gigabytes worth of disk. So it's just going to look amazing. You know, even if you run like, what's the name of that crazy mobile Mark, whatever suite, or the one that has its own special partition. I forget the name of it. There's like test suites out there where it's a very stringent list of these specific applications have to be installed, and then it runs through all of them.
Yeah.
Like this version of Office and this version of this and whatever. And if you installed all of those on that system with this Optane thing, it would just be caching all that stuff as you were doing the installs, probably. And then if you just ran the test like twice, the second time, everything would be cached. So it would give you this faster than an NVMe SSD like result, just because it's hitting this Optane stuff all the time. So that's probably what they're after.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't mean it's not going to help you if you're just doing regular productivity stuff. You know, your mom or your,
I mean, the
your mom or
caching
your
stuff,
grandma like checking her email. This is going to run much faster.
The caching stuff is a great way to get it into sort of a small but significant amount of systems so they can do validation on Optane.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's true too.
I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a whole lot more than that.
And the more of those they sell, the sooner they can bring a consumer version to market at a reasonable price.
Don't be crazy now.
Well, that's crazy talk. All right. Hardware software picks of the week. Unless there's any more news. Did we miss anything?
Yeah, my neighbor just blew 2 fuses, I think. I just heard him click.
Sweet.
Your neighbor blowing fuses? You are with an audible...
I'm in the basement. So I've got the panel in my
Your neighbor?
kitchen.
He's
my
got some
upstairs neighbor. I
high-intensity
just heard
lights.
click coming from the fuse panel.
Wait, you live on a basement as one whole floor?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Vancouver.
Are you the
It ain't cheap.
caretaker?
No, I don't
Okay.
take.
Well, that's good.
Well, I can imagine like...
So is he a horticulturist? Does he have grow lights?
So-
It's worse than that. He's a tech for the movie industry.
So is somebody going to come fumbling behind the curtain? Like in
I'm
search...
expecting a knock at my door very
in
soon.
search of a breaker panel?
Yeah.
All right. Sweet. You can have a lot of fun with that guy up there. You can just be like, oh, your breaker
Okay.
tripped. Anyway.
Never. I'd never do that to anybody more than once a night.
That music is really... Oh, wait. Oh.
It's not anymore.
It was loud, so I fixed it. Anyway. All right,
He's a
Jeremy.
good guy.
You got a pick other than opening your neighbor's
I
breakers?
do, but before I do that, I will raise a pint to Stuart McLean. We lost one of the world's greatest storytellers today. Unfortunately, being Canadian, most of you have never heard of him, but
I'm not
believe
Canadian.
me, he was something else.
The joke was
So,
lost.
Acronis learned some new tricks. They just announced their backup 12 solution. It's always been one of the more impressive ones that's been able to back up not just VMs, but entire VM instances from Azure and now Amazon Web Services, which is not friggin' easy to do, and it will come back up within about 15 seconds or so, depending on how you've set it up. But they've also not only tweaked the way that they used to back up Exchange email stores, they've managed to get their fingers somehow into Office 365 mailboxes, which, as far as I knew, was friggin' impossible. Office 359 is locked down ridiculously. They're now offering a new one, which is going to grab user stores off of the local and do it, and in theory, pull it off of your O359 cloud and be able to store it. This is impressive. I'm looking forward to seeing if I can get my hands on it, try and play with it a little bit, and, well, some of the other admins that I work with, because that would be really freaking neat.
You forgot you're supposed to decrement the number each time you say it.
No, it's early in the year.
Okay.
We don't know yet.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, check it out, because it's also good for just backing up your own stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
It-
Acronis
brilliant
makes good
stuff.
stuff. Yeah, we use it here.
Yeah, but if you're running VMs on Azure or AWS, or you're running an O359 domain, take a look. They've got some new tricks, or at least they say they do.
All right,
Next,
Josh.
and then I'll go check the fuse panel.
Hey,
Yeah, you.
what do you expect? That I have a pick?
Josh, we
yeah?
want you to put out. We want you to put out now.
It looks like you have a Mori style pick, actually.
No.
How about I just blink really fast and look confused and stare up in the air?
Morse code for help me?
Well, we can't see it because his screen's reflecting off his glasses, so we
You know,
can see
if
his porn.
only. Well, these are new glasses, and I noticed these they reflect a whole lot different than my previous ones.
You didn't get the anti-glare.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Hmm.
Anyway, Cooler Master has a newish 212 called the RR212X, and it's a slightly different cooler than the 212 Evo. It's got a better fan, a little better design. I'm using that for my new 7700K build. So far, it's going swimmingly. Easy to install. Just read the directions. Not terribly expensive. It was on sale. That's why I got it, because I'm cheap. And it's cool.
So-
And it fits in my case. Hyper 212X.
Looks like the fan might run a little quieter.
Yeah.
So like a different blade design.
So does the mounting method not suck with this one?
Yeah, what's the
Well,
mounting?
it's not horrific, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the reason that people have been going to. Oh man, what's that other low cost cooler that people have been migrating to recently? The Cryorg H7. It's kind of been the replacement for the 212 Evo. I haven't heard much about the 212X, so I don't know what people think about that. But
Yeah, it's a little bit better than the Evo. I've installed the Evo and some of the others, and this is less of a pain in the ass, but not much.
$30, you can't really expect too much, right?
No, you can't. And I don't expect anything, really. Because I charge $30 and I disappoint people all the time.
Cool. Next is me. So I have a what is it? That Samsung portable drive, or anybody that has a portable drive that's a USB-C.
The T3.
Yeah, I have a T3, and at the time there weren't any short Type A to Type C cables like in existence when it shipped, to the point where it comes with like a 3-foot cable. So yeah, this tiny little portable drive you're trying to hook up to your laptop on the go, and you get this long cable. It's kind of annoying, right?
Yeah.
So you have to keep the cable bundled up or something, and just like annoying to deal with. So I was looking for a short cable. Finally, I saw one came out where in the specs for it, they specifically state that it does 5 gigabit, handles 5 gigabit data rate.
Did you have a different link? Because it definitely says this is a USB 2.
Did you click on?
And click to your link.
Yep.
USB 2.0 Type C data
That's so
charging
it
cable.
limits the voltage so that your stuff doesn't catch on fire.
I don't
And
know.
it says
Maybe I.
USB 2.0 a male host 480 megabits a second.
Well, we'll see. Maybe this is a sucky pick.
I don't want to just completely shit all over your pick, but I think you picked the wrong thing from what you're describing.
Dang it.
The search continues.
The search might continue.
We can flip this back. It can be a community pick. If anyone knows of a
That's
short
true.
Type C USB 3.0 cable,
Yeah, Type
send
A.
it to Alan on Twitter.
Type A to Type C. Short cable, like less than a foot long. Preferably like, just maybe like 4 inches long. Anyway. Huh. Well, that's annoying.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to wonder if it's one of the other products on this.
Yeah, I mean, that company very well might make one. Maybe just found the wrong product listing or something. But
All right, well, we'll revisit this. Maybe with a user pick next week. Ken, what you got?
ProClip. ProClip makes awesome products.
This is the phone clip thing for your car.
Yes. Have you ever messed around with these kind of cheap phone clips that like
You mean the vent mounts?
clip onto the vents or use the
Nope.
CD slot and they're always kind of cheap and just break all the time and
Yeah.
just kind of suck?
I went through 2 vent mounts in one car, yeah,
Exactly.
because they kept breaking.
ProClip is the answer to this. So it's a kind of a 2-part system. You start by getting a the portion for your phone. So you get just like they have several different designs. You can get one that your phone slides into. They make them for a bunch of phones. So just kind of look up whatever model phone you have.
It's like tailored for the phone. It's not like a generic thing.
Yeah, it fits perfectly. Like it's just kind of my phone slides right in there. It's a friction fit. Well, it does have a little lip at the bottom, but just doesn't move anywhere. It stays
There's
in
like
there.
a groove it fits in. Yeah.
And then the second part is a sort of customized mount for your car. So if we look here at the mount I have in my car, it grabs onto sort of the edge of the upholstery for the dashboard and clips in there, and then you just screw that phone mount into this sort of.
It gives you a surface that you can screw into.
Yeah, exactly. It just has 4 holes on it where you screw in the phone mount version of it, and they have these for like just
basically every
just
model
basically
of everything.
every car you can think of, and they actually have like multiple positions for most cars. So if you don't like blocking a vent here, you can just sort of look at the other options. Like it's kind of amazing. They have options for every car I've ever looked up, and they all seem to be well thought out. I don't exactly know how they do this, like how they have access to all of these cars that they're designing all of these mounts for. But
well, if they're out of Europe, then I imagine they're.
Yeah, I think they have like a cool video on here.
With the new phones and tablets coming out, device mounting solution. The solution is the holder. Grooves in the sidewalls provide a secure hold, yet allow easy docking and removal, all while keeping a low profile. And thanks to the holder's tilt swivel, you can rotate and angle your device as desired. Other features such as built-in charging or locking options are also available. Want to improve your productivity?
They are expensive. It's about $30 to $40 for each half of it, so it's like a $70 to $80 or around a $70 solution, which sucks. It really does suck, but I haven't found anything better than that.
That's a lot of cheap vent mounts worth of money.
But it just works, and it works really well. So
Get what you pay for.
I like it. I don't want to go
all
back.
that matters, Ken.
Oh, thanks.
You like your Betamax you bought back in the day too.
My HD DVD.
Yes, I've got one too with plenty of movies on my shelf.
The chat's pooping on your A3, man.
Whatever.
Good thing you have Alan around to deal with your VW Group related problems. Well, yes, he does.
Well, yeah, that's why I buy Volkswagen.
That's probably why he bought that car.
I mean, duh.
The first thing
you buy what your mechanic likes to work on, right?
Hey, Alex, switch it back to us. Yeah, first thing Ken did when he got that car was he brought it by, and we proceeded to hack the crap out of multiple parts of his car. And looked up what was the name of that German word we were looking for.
There's a lot of hex editing, just completely in German menus.
Yeah,
so.
we were digging into menus that hadn't been like it was a brand new model of the car.
Yeah, they not translated and just flipping bits. So
yeah, we were looking for things to like automatically do Windows and stuff, and we're like, what's the clothes that we were looking for? And we're like, where is this word? And like flipping through,
it's a list of like 6,000 entries.
Yeah, it was like thousands of entries in a drop-down list.
Yeah,
it was like horrible. Anyway,
so
yes, we hack things.
So pro clip: if you're looking for something, you're tired of the cheap solutions you find on Amazon. I will say I've seen some cool magnetic mounts. I've like my girlfriend got one recently, and she like a $20 magnetic mount on Amazon. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to shell out the money for this, which I totally understand. It took me a long time to sort of make that leap, but they're really well-made products, and they seem to support their stuff pretty well. I had an issue with one of theirs with it was cracked when I got it, and they replaced it no problem. So yeah,
cool.
All
right, well that about wraps it up. Again, PCPro.com/podcast. You will find show notes to go along with this podcast if you are listening to it after the fact. And I guess that's about it for this week. Ryan should be back next week, maybe? Hopefully.
I don't think so, actually.
I think he will. Anyway.
I have no idea.
I think he thinks he will. How about that?
Yeah, because he doesn't leave for GDC until
I think he gets
end
back
of next
Yeah,
week.
but there's something in the middle that he has to go to.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I'm Alan Malmontano.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Ken Addison.
Ken,
Thanks
you're so
for listening, guys. See you next week.
So, Ken, are you single?
So how in the hell was the browser getting audio?
Toggle the record.
It's not.
What
You
happened?
don't want to toggle the record?
No, I don't want to toggle the record. We talked about this beforehand.
Oh, okay.
I think Alan was getting food.
Yeah, the audio levels on here and the streaming machine were low, and everyone on the stream said it freaked out.
Weird.
So as soon as I said
got
that,
upset.
I pulled it way back as soon as they said anything, and then
Yeah, because I when they started saying stuff, I looked up at the levels and it was fine. So
yeah, I mean they were low. I mean I cranked the master down as soon as someone mentioned anything, and it didn't do anything. So I kicked the stream over there, and it seemed to fix it. So
No, I bet you that's more YouTube.
yeah, I wonder if it happened on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. I just been
I
then
saw a
coding
couple of
PC
people say
freaking out.
Twitch, but
I guess we'll have to see what the recording looks like.
USB Type A to Type C 3.0. USB 2, USB 2, USB 2. See, now this makes no sense. There's 3.1, but it's going to a Type A female. But it's by Cable
And
Creation.
you want
It's
to
the same
avoid
company.
the
It is
Type
by.
A females.
Well, it says standard USB 3.0. So the issue there is you're looking for Type C cables, which a lot of people think is a USB 3.1 feature because
But not
bad marketing.
necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I could
Yeah,
literally...
USB needs to get their shit
I
together.
could
It's
literally
getting
get a soldering iron and make one of these cables. Like, I just need the regular... I don't need all the...
Did you say a sodomy iron?
No. That's something only you have in your basement.
made by Hitachi.
That's not iron. That's made out of plastic. Oh, we got a link.
That's a hell of a link.
That is a long link. Or what is this? Unitech. Is that the one I just got on the screen right then? How long is that cable? That's 3 feet. I already have that. I need short.
Sounds like you need to cut it down.
I do appreciate the link, their nickname. But
Hack it to pieces and crimp it.
I currently already have a 3-foot
I
Type A to Type C.
think
Is
he
there another?
linked.
Or another one?
I don't know.
That opened the same page. Oh wait, he said my. Oh, you know what? Hold on. If you're selecting a different choice, which he might be doing,
Yeah, there's a
that's what he's doing. He's selecting a different choice. Yeah, you have to. Okay, so wait. No, that's Type C to Type C. That's C to Micro B. That's. Oh, good lord. That's. Is this one the short one?
It's lightning.
Oh. Wow.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long time, Ericon.
Okay, I guess he's not choosing one of the other options on the bottom there because they're all like 3-foot cables. Ericon said, speaking of Hitachi, and gave a YouTube link. I'm not going to go there.
No, but
Josh
oh
is
yeah, no,
probably
that
already
one
there.
you can do. That one is great.
Oh.
It's Get Perpendicular from back in like 2009
Oh,
or so.
God. Yeah, the... Wow. Perpendicular bits.
Yep.
All right, I need to get out of here.
Ken's going to go. He doesn't love us anymore.
Sounds good.
Here's one that looks promising.
Thanks,
Oh,
all.
no, it's 6 feet. It's like they're not getting...
They're not getting smaller.
They're not getting shorter. They're getting longer. Damn it.
What kind of person would only want a 3-inch cable?
Let's do a little drive. I need a dongle cable.
You and your dongles.
Maybe I can find a short Type C to Type C and then use like a Type A to Type C adapter.
But 6 feet long.
Or I could find a Type A to Type, like male to male, that's just like one piece, maybe, that somebody makes. Then I can just plug it into the end of that female Type A. I shouldn't have to concoct some crap just to plug in a stupid, external drive. Ridiculous. Uh-oh. I just got a link via text.
As exciting as your cable
Bio,
search
it's
is.
still 3 foot.
Hold on, I want to see if my buddies come through. Where is that? Hold on. You found it. It's on Amazon. My Cable Mart.
That doesn't sound shady.
6-inch. Type C, A, male. Let's see if this comes up. There it is. Leave it to my buddy Gary.
Way to go, Gary.
Gary sent us some hardware that we're going to be reviewing soon as well.
Gary from Asus?
Nope. This is a super secret Gary.
Super secret?
Super secret Gary that works for a very large company. And apparently has a little bit of disposable income based on the price of the thing that he sent me from his personal stash. And I will just leave it at that. My Cable Mart. Sweet. Oh wait, got another link in the chat. Actually, try this one too. What's this one? No, that's a YouTube video. Jesus built my hot rod? No.
Ding, 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 ding.
I'm adding Gary's USB cable to my cart.
That sounds personal.
It does. But you know what? I'm gone.
He's gone?
I think
Because I need to use the facilities. I've been imbibing beer. Breaking the seal.
I'm surprised you don't just have like
Don't go
Catheter?
there.
one of the.
Sup,
No,
Cap?
I
You
wasn't
ever
gonna
tried
go
that?
all the way
No.
to that. I was just
What,
gonna
a
go to
gallon
like
jug that I
the
keep under my desk.
the
and then I
travel
go, every
the
once in a
travel
while
thing.
you see me going, oh, well, just
Oh,
Wow.
the funny thing about beer bottles. Beer goes
Oh,
in,
and I have a cover shot for this one.
beer comes out, beer goes back in.
Yeah, you definitely need to zoom that in
Oh, it's
just on
perfect.
Josh's face, and that'll be the podcast cover.
2 in a row, Josh.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Cover boy.
Oh, you made him the one last week? Awesome.
Oh, jazz hands.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Oh, the jazz hands. Was the one for the David Hewlett one the?
Yes.
Oh, it was? Okay, good. Just checking. All right. We gotta
All
go,
right.
guys.
Good night, guys.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
watching.
Have a good one.